Really Big Show with Jim Check and Ian Burns.
As the nameplates say, I'm Jim, that's Ian. And this earlier on, he started to look a little bit like Albert Einstein there. He had the hair going on there, so. It's
If only I had the brain.
If only I had the brain. I think we're going to do the Wizard of Oz right now. I don't know where Geppetto is, but we might need Geppetto too to cut that nose off of Pinocchio there. Big Smoky in the background. Actually, choky smoky here in the Okanagan Valley right now. There's a light rain, but not much, but it is actually acrid. You can feel it in your throat right now. Lots of smoke going on. How's our sound this morning? I guess let's check into that. How's the sound? Our headline this morning, Carney breaks trust, but no calls for resignation. Why? Servile media. And this other one is kind of a debate between these two headlines here this morning. And Alberta has the economic power, and that's been shown in these meetings there. Alberta has the economic powers. Everybody wants it to wield it. This is the same people that wanted Alberta to be suppressed just recently, right? And still lots of them want Alberta's economic power suppressed. But now they realize that the only real economic might Canada has, under the control of Danielle Smith and the Albertans. But Quebec still holds all the political power. And you can see that over and over and over. The evidence is alarming. But again, Alberta has the keys to the engine. And all Quebec has is I guess what you call the legacy of the Laurentian elite that control power right now. But the real economic power rests with Alberta. And that's an imbalance, I would say. That's an absolute imbalance. The power should belong to ones that hold the economic power. So will the balance right itself? Will Western Canada finally get the respect it deserves?
Don't think so. We need a Reform Act. Read about the Reform Act in Britain in the 19th century and what prompted that, as the north of England built massive amounts of wealth because of the Industrial Revolution, but still didn't have fair representation in the House of Commons. I mean, that ended up quite positively in democratic terms for the north of England, but I don't know if that's going to happen with the east-west disparity in Canada.
We love the feedback. We appreciate all the feedback. We appreciate the comments too. In this one here, from C. Reagan, I watch the channel all the time, don't usually comment, but I thank you both for your commitment to truth and highlighting the lies and corruption. Honestly, I don't know how you two can listen to these ID10Ts all the time, but I find it frustrating. It's tough sometimes. It's tough for Ian and I. We talk off the air, and it's tough. It's demoralizing sometimes. It's absolutely demoralizing to watch Canada's economy slip, and especially when you measure it against our potential. You know, it's like having a child that has so much potential, and you watch them squander it, and you wonder why, and when they will finally get their act together and say, okay, I'm ready to get serious now. But I mean, if we're going to get into it, but if we look at the Premier's meeting, the same people that tried to suppress Alberta for so long all of a sudden look to Alberta to wield the hammer with the same thing that they were trying to get Alberta, even Mark Carney, to keep 80% of it in the ground. Kind of a weird turn of events. The irony is not lost on us. We're going to kick it off with our top story, though. Mark Carney. If you don't have integrity and you don't know how to speak truth, like Ian said yesterday, if this was in the UK right now, there'd be reporters standing outside of 10 Downing Street calling for resignation. It's plain as day that Mark Carney, even how they soft pedal it, misleading, contradictory, it's pretty obvious. Mark Carney yesterday did not comment after the federally released records show he misled taxpayers, nice word there, right? Over secret terms of the U.S. toll sharing agreement on the $6.4 billion Gordie Howe International Bridge at Windsor. One MP said it was improbable that Carney, a very smart man who has a background in finance and banking, and was unaware he lied to the public. He literally signed the document. Come on. That was like when he said that he had nothing to do with the move of Brookfield to New York. But if you look down the document, his signature was at the bottom, unless he's using AutoPen. And he has a fiduciary responsibility to know what he's reading when he puts his signature to something. Same thing with government. He has a fiduciary responsibility when he signs something to take ownership of it. Whether or not he knew, you know what I mean? You can give these people, oh, well, you know, maybe he didn't know. Come on. He's responsible regardless. And he is very knowledgeable. He probably has more knowledge on finance than all of his other MPs in his cabinet by a 10x. Because a lot of them in there would have a tough time opening up a water bottle in the UK or the European Union. Was it miscommunication? These are all the excuses they're trying to make. Was it miscommunication? Come on. Let's be serious.
But that's the thing with the word lie, the accusation of lying. You need proof that the person that said what they said knew that they were, knew that it was false and intended to lie. That it's about intention. And that's how a lot of very slippery individuals, particularly in politics, get away with lying. Or, they lie almost certainly, and then the press and commentators can't really say that because we don't know for certain 100% that Mark Carney looked at the document and then said, okay, so I'm going to lie now and I'm going to say that it's something other than this. Because otherwise, if he was defending himself in court or something like that, or let's say launched a defamation suit against somebody or something like that, something as petty as that, he could say, no, I didn't lie. I just misread it. I misunderstood it. This is just, it's almost like a technical term. It's like a technicality. And yet we all know, I think, in our bones, what's gone down here.
And this is what Carney said. We are sharing after Canada is paid back. Plain and simple. And that's what he told CTV News at the time. So we get the revenues and the servicing of the bridge, the cost of the bridge, and paying the debt of the bridge. And then what's left over, there's a split. It's right there in the sentence. It's pretty plain. We get the revenues, then the servicing of the cost of the bridge and paying the debt of the bridge. And then what's left over, there's a split of that for 15 years. That's not true. You can easily say that. That's not true. That on the face of it is absolutely not true. What's the opposite of that? That's not true.
But he could still say, this is why the Conservative MP that's criticised him, that's why his comment is, he finds it hard to believe because Mark Carney is, quote, a very smart man who has a background in finance and banking. Because the only realistic defence that Carney apologists could launch here is, he didn't read it properly, he didn't have time, something like that. That's just impossible to believe because we're talking about Mark Carney. We are talking about Saruman, the master wizard of finance, the grand wizard of Middle Earth. Are we supposed to believe that he looked at it and he just got it wrong? I mean, then again, he did very confidently believe that Canada supplied most of America's semiconductors. So I don't know, maybe.
But he repeated the claim again on July 16th. It's not the splitting of the tolls on the bridge, he told reporters in London. It's an agreement for 15 years to split net revenue. Splitting of tolls and sharing of toll revenue won't happen until all the debt, he stressed it, is repaid. I mean, it's a pretty simple document. I've read it. It's a pretty simple document. Hard to get lost in there. But he also said, like I said, he said he had nothing to do with Brookfield moving to New York City. Although if you went down to the bottom of the page, his name, his signature was there. And the media is like, yeah. And then Francois Philippe Champagne on July 15th repeated the claim. Canada's finance minister. And the only reason we found out about this is if American media broke the story. And they had to come clean. Would they have come clean? Have they come clean on any of the other stuff that's out there that that can't be forced through America. And if we could get people to look at it. Stephen Guilbeault's alleged $250 million that was funneled off to his companies, his green schemes. Nope. No documents yet to this day. No vaccine records for 15 years. The WE scandal. I mean, we could go on, or we could probably sit here for the rest of the morning just talking about all the refusals to prescribe it, the refusals to provide information to the Canadian taxpayer. Because again, at the end of the day, it's your money, your information.
But also think about the alternative here. If it isn't a lie, if Mark Carney did not lie, the alternative is what?
He's incompetent.
That he is so incompetent that he couldn't understand a document that, is it high school level? Maybe even lower than high school? It's an extraordinarily straightforward piece of English. I know that Mark Carney has trouble with English, with the language in general, with communication in general. But if our Prime Minister is incapable of understanding that, where I think probably a 9-year-old, maybe 9, 10 is about the threshold, would be able to grasp that concept. If he can't, we've got a lot more to be worried about than having a mendacious Prime Minister, because then we have a stupid Prime Minister. That is a lot more frightening than having a liar for a Prime Minister, I think.
Well, I've only got myself a CPA, and I can understand it. So I don't know. He's got, probably enough credentials and enough people in the room. Maybe get rid of, not counting the social media 20-somethings that do this weird, kind of like crazy influencer stuff on their social media. Maybe stop relying on them and start relying on people that can actually read a document. But we all know he read the document, put his name on the bottom of the document, because it was a negotiation with Trump. This wasn't like the deal that was made way back when. This is a new deal. This changes the old deal. And there would have been concessions made, and there would have been a negotiation taking place. We want this, and you would have known what you're giving up. You would have known, and we're going to show you later, Melanie Jolie says Mark Carney's in charge of all negotiations. She said it. He's in charge of all negotiations. So he would have known the concessions, and he uttered false utterances to the Canadian public. I don't know how else you say it. Doug Ford, listen to this and then just turn the mirror. Listen to this, Doug. I put this in here because it's so interesting. Listen to Doug here.
Everyone's seen President Trump in action. He's sitting with the Prime Minister the night before, all buddy-buddy, and next thing you know, he wakes up and wants to throw on 50% tariffs?
Yeah. Yeah, the World Cup.
I wouldn't trust him as far as I could throw him.
Who else was sitting in the room? Doug? Who else was in that room and has been in that room many times, and it's happened over and over again? Who is it that you don't trust, Doug? Is it just a one-way street, Doug? Every time that the Liberals seem to dip in the polls, the straw man shows up. Weird. Doug? We got some more weird stuff in that interview with Cochrane there later too. Hold on to your seat.
But it's like catnip for them, isn't it? They just can't resist it. They have a pretty serious addiction. They've got not quite a substance abuse problem, more like I don't know how you would describe it, but they are abusing the drug of increasing your popularity by attacking the Americans.
Fear, rhetoric,
it's just something that they just cannot say no to it. And we've talked about this. We talked about the psychology of this. It would require, if you put yourself in their shoes, it would require extraordinary forbearance and self-control, wouldn't it? To get your dweebs come in and they say, "Oh, Dougie, mate, you're down again in the polls. Like, it's looking a bit rough." To hear that and then resist at that point and say, "Okay, I know if I go off on Trump, that'll give me like 6 or 7 points, but I'm not going to do it because it's not right for Ontario. It's not right for Canada." That takes quite a meaty, strong backbone, doesn't it, to do that? And these small people are not capable of resisting. They don't know how to resist temptation. So they just do it.
Well, this next clip here.
You do not come into another country and run political ads against the President of the United States. We don't come into Canada and run political ads against the Prime Minister or a political party in Canada. That's not appropriate behavior.
There's CBC about to go and defend that. Can you imagine if the Trump administration started running ads in Canada? Can you imagine the uproar?
Well, they've inserted themselves in Canadian politics a number of times, but yeah, it is a little bit different to do that, to run ads. Although, as was pointed out at the time, was it pointed out at the time? Well, I'm going to point it out anyway. Our good friend, the State of Israel, and I also think Saudi Arabia and Qatar and a couple of other places have done exactly that. Bought out, but famously Israel did it. They bought like a spread in the New York Times or something like that. I think that was back when it was the nuclear deal with Iran. You know, like, it's not completely unprecedented, and that's wrong to say that it is.
It's fairly common for people to do it against America, right? Because America has a very open, free press, and that would gladly take, especially they have a very left press and then a right press, that they're willing to take that as well, right? So in Canada, the CBC, even if you came on and if I don't know, let's pick a name. Elon Musk wanted to start running ads against the Liberal government on CBC. They wouldn't take the money.
You also have to recognize that America, for all the protestations to the contrary, America is indeed an empire, arguably the most powerful empire in the history of humanity. And empires attract these people, the provinces, the vassals. They come to the capital and they lobby, they plead. This has happened in the Roman Empire, it's happened in the Persian Empire, happened in the British Empire, where they would go to London and they would complain and they would say, we need this in East Africa, and then another group would say, no, actually we need it. You know, this is one of the consequences of running an empire. You will get these foreigners that come to your capital city and plead with you.
We do have, we've got confirmed now, because we did that preliminary interview. We have an interview scheduled with the Ambassador Pete Hoekstra for July 30th there. So we'll let you know more about that as we get closer. Are we getting some echoes?
That's what the folks are saying.
Who's echoing, me or you?
They say that I am echoing. Am I still echoing?
This is a really good quote. We had Richard Diaz on here. I like this quote. When you want to help people, you tell them the truth. When you want to help yourself, you tell them what they want to hear. Thomas Sowell. I've said that many times on the show, and so have you. Like, why lie? Why misdirect? Why mislead unless there's a different agenda? The Davos speech. Why? Why say there in that Davos speech? I think Ian. I mean, we broke that thing down. I think the next day, it was so full of misinformation and disinformation. I think probably one of the only outlets in Canada that did that, broke that thing down the next day. And then I think that a week after that, we put Rubio's speech right next to Mark Carney's speech. While all the other people were just applauding it and, I don't know, self-flatulation or whatever too, like Mark Carney's wife. Wherever we walk, people run up to us and just like, oh my God. What? Literally what? But this quote rings true. When you want to help people, you tell them the truth. When you want to help yourself, you tell them what they want to hear. The Laurentian elite doing extremely well in Canada. And we highlighted it a couple days ago now. 10 million Canadians. Not one reporter's asking that question. They have all those people there. All CBC's there. All the premiers are there. and the Prime Minister's there, all the reporters, they could ask that simple question. Is it time to put your arrogance aside and get a deal as 10 million Canadians suffer food insecurity? 25% of the population in our nation so rich have food insecurity. That just doesn't seem to come up. That's the question I was asked if I was standing there. And look at the economy. Put this chart up full. Put up the big one here. Look at this. This is not Trump. This is systemic bad policy, bad leadership, just slow destruction of the economy of Canada. And why? Why? Just leave it up for a while. Why? Because we suppress our natural wealth. And now at this conference, they're just, Daniel Smith, put the hammer down. Done this. It's the policies of David Eby's, Wab Kinu's, Mark Carney, Quebec, all of Quebec, the NDP, the list goes on and on. We've suppressed our economy. The policies, the failed policy of the last 11 years of this government, and it continues. That's not Donald Trump. That's the leadership, and that's the policies of Canada. And underneath that, you can write 10 million Canadians now suffer from food insecurity in Canada. You can also write youth unemployment banging on the door of 20% in some parts of Canada. High unemployment overall in Canada. We're going to show you a stat later that now a lot of the youth think, oh, this isn't working. This economy is not working for me. Maybe let's give communism a shot.
And you know, it's funny. One of our dear, cherished friends, Rogers, that glorious corporation that does so much for the public well-being. There's an article in Bloomberg, like the Canadian side of Bloomberg, the Canadian page or whatever, talking about how they're struggling a little bit. And they're very concerned. Investors and shareholders are rather concerned about Rogers. And then at the end, I just thought this was such an amazing, almost like naive, this paragraph from Bloomberg. But I'm gonna read it out. What Rogers shareholders need more than anything is for the pendulum to swing back on immigration, to bring more newcomers and wireless customers into the country. Isn't that amazing? And this is what those shareholders read. This is their publication. And I'm nothing against Bloomberg here. I'm not having a go, Bloomy, mate. It's just the way that that's written couldn't be clearer, could it? Their gain is our loss.
Let me summarize. Let me summarize that headline for you differently. Corporate profits versus access to health care is more important. Rogers' corporate profits are better than your access to healthcare. And let's not forget, Rogers dips into your pocket too as they take money from this government for media. Rogers, Bell, take money from you. And that's what they write. They want temporary foreign workers. They want the immigration, because we highlighted it before. Rogers made a boatload of money off this runaway immigration. That's right. Temporary foreign workers and foreign students was a boon to many corporations. Cheap labor and people buying phones because money was given to them by the government. Even rents. Mark Carney even says when he was running Brookfield, this is the time to take advantage of the renters. We can do extra fees. He wrote that to the shareholders. He literally wrote it down in documents. You can go read it. They do not care about you. They are a protected oligopoly here in Canada. Bell, Rogers, and TELUS. That's how much they care about you. They want the temporary foreign workers back, and which means less access to health care for you, higher inflation, higher rents, because you don't matter. You literally don't matter. But also
then the sort of unquantifiable aspects of mega giga immigration as well, like cultural dislocation and just things like too many people around and things changing very dramatically. All these things that are usually shrugged off and laughed at by this class of people that inflict it on the masses. That's also consequential, isn't it? But another thing to bear in mind is this is being done to one group by another group. It's not like they're sinking the ship that we're all on. They have their own ship. They can go to the US for healthcare if they need to. They can take their kids out of the school that's changed and become unbearable and put them in a private school. They can get around all this stuff. They already have property, etc. It's definitely it's important to point out that this is done to other people, and I suppose they can only really do it because the disparity is so huge, and they've created a completely separate class, a completely separate world for themselves, so they can just inflict this on other people while they're fine.
I think it's important, Ian, to read that again, just so people understand it. Just read it again. Just how the audacity of it, that they don't care. That's basically, they should say, we don't give an F about the Canadian public. What matters is corporate profits. Go ahead. So
this is Bloomberg, right? And I advise everybody to read Bloomberg. I'm not having a go at Bloomberg at all. But they say here that so the preceding paragraph, it talks about how the telecom sector is out of favor because Rogers added 22,000 wireless customers in the previous quarter, where 3 years ago it was 170,000. So more people, more customers. Anyway, and then Bloomberg sums it up by saying, what Rogers shareholders need more than anything is for the pendulum to swing back on immigration to bring more newcomers and wireless customers into the country. It couldn't be more obvious, could it, that our interests are in conflict. The interests of the majority are in conflict with the
Canadian public. The Canadian public that suffers. And listen to the politicians in power, save a few, are in conflict with the well-being of the Canadian public. They protect the oligopolies. They protect their personal interests. Read that quote. Go back to that other slide. Read that quote there, and then ask yourself, every time they lie or tell you bullshit, when you want to help people, you tell them the truth, plain and simple. That's what Rubio speaks, plain and simply. When you want to help yourself, word salads. You tell them what they want to hear. Mark Carney, when he spoke in French in Quebec, he said one thing. This is when he was running. And when he spoke in Western Canada, he said another thing. All in contradiction of each other. Maybe that should be the Liberal slogan that he puts up at the podium. So at least he has a warning. You just put the warning there so people can just, listen at your own peril. Risk, whatever you want to call it. And then this is here, this legacy meeting running cover for Carney's lies, the layout, the story of contradictions. It's just, they just are super soft. Sir. And Mark Carney refuses to answer. Sir, did you mislead the Canadian public, sir? Sir? Carney says he'll do whatever it takes in response to Trump tariffs there. Carney insisted that he'll do whatever it takes to defend and support our families, our workers, our business. We're in a stronger position than we were with this trade war started 18 months ago. We're in a stronger position because of the determination of Canadians themselves. Do you have any evidence that we're in a stronger position? A shred? Just, we'll play a little bit of the clip after, but it's the same speeches all the time.
Would you like me to provide some evidence? I have some evidence for you. Stronger position. Okay, so 18 months ago, about the time that Mark Carney came into power, let's just look at the election. The first poll from Léger after the election, Liberals +3. Tight. Rather tight indeed. Latest poll released today, Nanos, Liberals +12. We're in a much stronger position than we were 18 months ago. Everything's going really well.
Yes. If you speak of the Liberal Party,
Heading
yes,
into a new
manufactured majority. Nobody says anything about it. Like there's a couple of fringe people saying, well, this seems odd. This seems wrong. But that story's gone as well. We had Douglas Carswell on from the UK when he crossed the floor. He called a by-election right away because that's the only right thing to do. But the 5 people that did it here in Canada, not called out, not called to answer to it, haven't done sit-down interviews yet. We've reached out to them, and what did we get back? Julie, what did we get back? What did we get back from responses? Julie's going to tell us what we got back from responses.
0.
Yeah, that's right, 0. Because they don't believe they're accountable to you, the Canadian public. Look how you come in last. The silent majority, the masses that are paying the price for the companies like Rogers, A&Ws, and telecoms, dairy cartels, all of that. The Laurentian elite and the selected few get protected. Well, you can just pay the price. And then here's this freak of nature pops up. Again, on foreign news, won't come and do any, we've requested her as well. Freeland, the one that the Americans despise. Listen to her this little clip here from our friend here.
Are we heading into a new trade war with tit for tat tariffs and trade measures? I mean, Canada is an enormously important market for the United States.
John, you are absolutely right. And when I was foreign minister and negotiating our trade agreement with the first Trump administration, we did also have tariffs imposed on us in the middle of those negotiations. And we responded. We retaliated. We didn't start the trade fight, but my motto during those negotiations was, we do not escalate and we do not back down. And we responded with a dollar for dollar retaliation. Right. My own personal view about this U.S. administration is sweet talk doesn't work with them. The only language they understand is force, unfortunately.
Okay, so what does force?
That's good. I can't take a lot of her, offering up advice after she led Canada on its biggest decline. Like a nation with so much potential, she led it down the road and now sits with that bag of $25 billion. And she's the economic advisor to Ukraine with our tax dollars. And no oversight because, national security, of course. And then she trots herself out there on foreign media, won't even come and do the servile Canadian media in answer to some of the things she did, and left under dark, dark clouds as she took a job with a foreign power while she still represented Canada. No answer to that either. These are the people, the integrity. This is the person with integrity telling you how to deal with the American administration, the world's economic might. This is who we want to take advice from.
She also doesn't even live in Canada. So we can talk about the elite in Canada who advocate for policies that don't affect them, like massive amounts of immigration, because it'll make their stocks increase in value at companies such as Rogers. But they don't have to deal with the consequences. They've already got a massive house. They probably have a massive hedge that blocks off the real world. They can go and get healthcare in New York State or Mexico or whatever. None of that stuff affects them. With Freeland, it's the next level entirely. It wouldn't affect her if she was in Canada, if she bothered to hang around. But she's not even in Canada. She lives in Oxford, I think, Oxford, England, and commutes to Kiev now and then. So what she's advocating here, maximum force against the United States. Whatever comes back, and I think we can say with some confidence that a lot of things would come back. That we know. You can say that without any sort of value judgment, whether you're in favor of it or not. The Americans would hit back, would they not? Does anybody disagree with that? But when that detritus comes flying over the border, she's not even going to be in Canada.
Who will pay the price for it?
She'll be having a nice jaunt around the Oxfordshire countryside. She doesn't care.
Who pays the price for her actions? Who's been paying the price for her actions of the last 11 years? You. do. These are the people. You pay the price. I do have another piece of Mark Carney's opening there. I want you to listen to this because of smoke in the background. You can see it. This from 45 seconds, I think, here. No, sorry, this one here. No, from 45 seconds. That's right, that one.
I'd like to acknowledge on behalf of all colleagues that we're meeting during one of the worst wildfire seasons in our history. It's ramped up tremendously in recent weeks, and on behalf of all premiers and all Canadians, recognize the work of our firefighters, our emergency crews, members of the Canadian Armed Forces who are working relentlessly across the country to battle these fires and to keep our people safe. That's good. We're meeting.
So I did the interview with Murray Wilson, a former forester. He also did a documentary, and they're also sponsoring the show right now, which is great because they want to get the word out on this. They want to get the word out on forestry management. Is it climate change or forestry management? Because right now, some of the stuff that's going on, the mill closures, just British Columbia alone. British Columbia alone. I put this tweet up there. British Columbia alone. Last year alone, Crofton Pulp Mill. I interviewed the mayor there of North Cowichan where that mill closed. I interviewed him. West Fraser Sawmill, 100 Mile House. Drax Pellet Mill in Williams Lake, all closed. The BC Council of Forest, Kofi interviewed them as well. 21 lumber mills permanently and indefinitely shuttered since 2023. And just like last week, the Canfor Northwold Pulp Mill in Prince George. Do you know who does forest management in Canada? The forestry companies. If they all go away, we had Ravi Parmar on, the BC Forest Minister on. Was it Friday or Monday? We had him on just recently. My mind slipped. So many interviews. We had Ravi Parmar on. And one of the things he said, don't let your forestry industry die like California did, because then there's no forestry management. That was the warning he gave. Don't let your forest industry die. You tell me this is not dying. And the parks, there's nothing. We asked them about parks, like national parks and provincial parks. Who's doing the forestry management in there? Jasper, that fire, when the Liberals stood up at the podium and said it was climate change. And there was letters, countless letters. Go watch the video with Murray there, Murray Wilson. And they'll tell you that there was countless letters from foresters warning the government, the national government, the federal government, about the disaster that was pending in Jasper. And they lost half the town because it was ignored, bloody well ignored. We're going to play a small clip from this video that you got to go watch, and we'll put the link in there. We're going to play from about 5 seconds to 1 minute here.
By 10 o'clock at night, you could see the flames up the hills. By 4 in the morning, this whole hillside, all these mountains, the skies were redder than I've ever seen before.
Every summer, the fires come. And every year, they're hotter, faster, and harder to stop.
This fire is a result of literally a spark that traveled 3.8 kilometers across the lake. Mind-boggling.
Homes burn, highways close, families flee. But this crisis didn't come out of nowhere.
We can draw some parallels with California as well. With our forest, the trees got older, more impacted by disease and insects, and the fuel was thicker. So when the fires happened, they would become mega fires.
So how do we become more fire resistant in a province that has over 55 million hectares of forest?
That's good. Bookmark that. You got to go watch it. You have to watch it because they're going to feed you a bunch of malarkey and tell you that it's just climate change causing this. It's lack of forest management. Finland has the same type of boreal forest as us, and they have very few fires because they have a young forest and it's well managed. And the pitch that Carney's doing right now, that 30-30 plan, by 2030, 30% of Canada will be untouchable. That'll mean 30% of Canada will have zero forest management. Julie, how much forest management will happen?
The studies show that the industrial carbon price adds zero.
Zero forest management. Every time a mill closes, that's less forest management in Canada. They're closing and the pulp mills are closing. They have nothing to do with Trump tariffs. The pulp mills that are closing, Crofton and the one in PG, Northwood, you know what that has to do with? Cheap pulp prices coming in from South America. I've interviewed David Eby. We've had Ravi Palmer on several times now. We've had the former forest minister on. This is an ongoing problem. This is not a Donald Trump problem. This is a BC forest problem. This is a BC NDP issue. Because when I talked to some of the industry professionals at that time 2 years ago, Alberta's forestry sector was doing really well. And we asked Ravi Palmer, we asked him point blank. When I was working in the forest industry way back in the day, like probably 35, 40 years ago, tons of American companies were working in British Columbia. Julie would say there's zero here now. And you know who's working in Washington State? The Canadian companies. There's 3 big ones working in Washington right now because the forest sector is better. Same bloody trees, right? The trees didn't change as they walked across the border. We have a problem. And they use this to drive their climate change agenda, because Mark Carney stood at the podium just recently, didn't he? And said, oh yeah, well, the forest fires are caused by climate change, but we have a solution. It's called carbon capture and pathways. And it'll stop 90% of the tailpipe emissions out of Alberta. Listen to what he said. He tells you, nothing, insignificant. You know how much forest management could fix? Go watch this interview and arm yourself with the truth. There's so many good pieces of information in this video here. And make sure you hit the subscribe button when you get there. Please hit that subscribe button. You have to watch it. This puts EB's nonsense out of the way. You know how many people dedicate their lives to the forest industry? I have a lot of friends in the forest industry. How many dedicate their lives to it? And then they just get told one day, well, here's your pink slip. Bye now. And a lot of it has to do with access to fiber. We asked Ravi as well. Canfor said when they left, this is what, 2 years ago now? A year and a half? Canfor said they're not going ahead with Houston. They closed Bear Lake and they cut shifts in Prince George. They said BC was uninvestable. And where are they working? United States. Let that sink in. Watch the interview. Must watch. Doug Moe. Doug Moe. Scott Moe. You know, a guy, again, there's only a couple of, it seems like, serious politicians that care about the people of the province that they have the privilege to govern over. It should be seen as a privilege when you govern. You serve the people. A lot of people have forgot that it's a privilege to govern. It is not like a hauteur and like you're the Laurentian elite. Listen to Scott Moe.
Today, U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer said he's expecting that these CUSMA trade talks will go into 2027. Several premiers indicated that they thought that a trade deal could be reached in the next 28 or so days. I'm wondering if Mr. Greer's comments change your mind on that, or if you think that that's still something that could be worked towards.
No, I think I am, first of all, I would say I'm positive and bullish that we would be able to find an agreement in the near term, in particular given what is now, I think, 10 rounds of tariffs that have been indicated by the President of the United States of America. Some of those he has acted on with real impacts to, I think, in fairness, each and every province up here, including Saskatchewan. Some of those he has backed away from as well. We have about 27, 28 days left, I think, on this most recent announcement, which was his 10th announcement. And I as I said yesterday, this is an opportunity for us as Canadians and our bargaining team or our negotiating team, Ambassador Wiseman, Janet Charette, and led by Dominic LeBlanc and ultimately our Prime Minister, to really intensify those negotiations in the effort to find some type of a reviewed and renewed CUSMA, which is not only good for Canadian families and Canadian businesses, it is also, I would say, very, very positive for American families and American businesses. The cost of living that we're feeling on the north side of the 49th parallel in our respective provinces, the cost of doing business that businesses across Canada are experiencing is also happening in the United States of America. And so it's in everyone's best interest in North America, the entirety of North America, for us to come to agreement in a reviewed and renewed CUSMA. I am bullish that we will be able to find that in the near term. However, I'm not entirely confident that we will. And so all we can do is to make every effort, myself as a subnational leader, to support our federal government and support those that are sitting at that bargaining table with information from our respective jurisdiction, and each leader up here, each provincial and territorial leader will be doing the same, so that we can support that negotiating team in coming to that agreement as soon as possible. It's good for Canadian families. It's
Let's hear from Danielle Smith.
Just wanting to cast ahead to tomorrow, when you'll hear more from the Prime Minister face to face. What assurances are you looking for about his strategy over the next 28 days?
Well, I can tell you, much like Premier Lance, I think Alberta has not been as exposed to some of the tariffs. 97% of our goods cross the border tariff-free. And even with this latest round, it's about 1% of our overall product that is going to be impacted. And so our approach has been one to say that tariffs don't help anyone. Tariffs hurt Canadian consumers, they hurt American consumers, whether we apply them or they apply them. And although we're at 97% tariff-free, we'd like it to be 100%. And we'd like every other province to be at 100% tariff-free as well. So I think this is a window, this month that we have, or 28 days, to sharpen the pencils and sharpen the focus. And I hope that we can get all of the outstanding issues on the table, whether it's autos or steel, softwood, aluminum, and some of the new issues that have been put on the table, so that we can get to a comprehensive agreement. I remain as bullish and maybe hopefully more optimistic as Premier Moe that we can actually get a deal before the month is up. I hope it doesn't drag on into 2027, but I think that the Prime Minister has heard from us that we would we want to make sure that we get a good deal that is comprehensive and covers all of those outstanding issues, and I think that I hope that that's what he's working towards.
Danielle Smith, scared to say the word supply management, right? Scared to say other things. You know, she said other things, right? Other things. But I mean, hopefully she stays strong, because there's a lot of pressure on her right now to buckle under to the people that were actually trying to suppress Alberta and continue to try to suppress Alberta. Alberta has the hammer right now. Alberta literally has the hammer, and they want her to wield it at Alberta's expense. And does David Eby step up right now and said, let's get the Northern Gateway pipeline built? Did he? Did he step up and say, let's do that, Danielle Smith? We had Ravi Parmar on, and he said, you know, like, basically alluded to the fact that those two don't get along. You know, David Eby's going to have a tough time sitting in the room with, you know, Danielle Smith. Danielle Smith is running the province that is the engine of Canada, and it gets very little respect. And again, it wants to get used as opposed to, hey, we can do this right now. And even Wab Canoe is going to say in a second here, well, you know, we'll consider a pipeline through Manitoba. Consider? Like, these are not serious people. These are not serious people.
And it doesn't match their claims, does it? It doesn't match what they say about how serious this is, about how we're being attacked by the Americans.
Still a sitting Liberal MP is Karina Gold that said, let's landlock Alberta's resources so they can't get them to market. That's what the Liberals essentially have done to Alberta. And then Mark Carney, read his book. He said he's still the same person. He did that British interview and said, I am that same man. And that book said, keep 80% of Alberta's riches in the ground. It's right in the book. Ian's read the book. Is it in the book?
He didn't say 80%, but yeah, I think 50%.
There's a lot out there that says 80, but whatever.
Well, I'm talking about values on the book. I think he maybe separately said that.
Greta
But
Thunberg
anyway,
is his idol.
Who cares? I mean, it's still profound, isn't it? And that is because he's talking about. It's quite an interesting passage in the book, actually, because he's talking about the now discredited business as usual model that they used to base all of these fanatical climate, apocalyptic predictions on. They used to base it on that model. That model that's what we've talked about before. It's been the people that ran that model have changed it, and it's now completely discredited. So it's like instantaneously out of date. All of those foolish claims that were made. And the business as usual one as well was never realistic anyway. It was never going to happen. It was never likely. But the likes of Carney zoom in on that and focus on that. And that's the context in which he made that comment. Or, wrote that comment.
They've literally got people convinced in Canada. Mark Carney and the Liberals and the NDP have got people convinced in Canada that the oil field is leading to climate change and that it has nothing to do, and the wildfires, and it has nothing to do with lack of forest management. Well, they ignore forest management. They literally ignore it. Ignore the warnings from foresters and have massive disasters. And the first thing to do is step to the podium and blame it on climate change, the Jasper fire. And it was only Daniel Smith pushing back on that and exposing the documents that showed that the warnings were there, that there was excessive fuel load in there, and that they would lose many, many homes when that fire started with all it was all there. And yet they continued to misinform the public, and the CBC is just the mouthpiece. Until we can find truth, we can't get better. We can't allow the lies to continue and the major portion of the population to pay the price. Listen to Rogers' statement there. We'd like to go back to when there was rampant immigration in Canada, where Canadians can't get access to healthcare, where people, like I said, I just had a friend go to Tijuana, Mexico, get access to healthcare because she can't access healthcare here in British Columbia. Way to go, Rogers. Hey, but Rogers shareholders, you know what? Awesome. And Rogers cell phone coverage, Ian and I sometimes have to stand at the window almost like at a tin can. You have to run a string to get cell phone coverage in the city of Kelowna. Like, it's that bad. I have to go stand at the window on the 16th floor in a tower. And Canoe, Wabi, now says he's willing to entertain an Alberta-Ontario pipeline. Everybody's throwing each other bones. This should be a no-brainer. This should never have been a point of discussion because it's not up to Manitoba if you had a real prime minister, because interprovincial stuff is the jurisdiction of the prime minister. He could say, I don't really care what you say, Wob. There's a pipeline going through Manitoba. Like it, lump it, suck it, whatever. Did I say that? Oops. But it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. He's again injecting himself as the power. He has no power over that. Yeah. Same as Eby. And Eby injected himself as well. These politicians, Wab Kinew, David Eby, and Doug Ford, are hurting the Canadian public. 10 million Canadians right now suffer food insecurity because of the likes of these type of politicians that put themselves first. I had another phone conversation with a well-connected individual, and he said he just came out of a meeting with some of the biggest investors in British Columbia, and they basically said British Columbia is uninvestable. And I know David Eby knows this. I know they all know it. It's been said to them. They stand at the podium and they talk nonsense. Their policies made it uninvestable. Their policies, they caused the uncertainty, and they continue down the same path. And they put the lives and families at risk. And now we have, like I said, 25% of the population in food insecurity, and it continues to get worse. That economic chart we showed you there in the outset, that's a sad reality. This has nothing to do with Trump. It has to do with bad leadership. Absolutely horrible leadership. And you know, probably Ravi Parmar is going to get in trouble for even doing the interview here with us. And and I just want to say this to Ravi. If they give you grief for doing that interview, you have to ask yourself a question. Does democracy matter, or does protecting power of a party matter more? What matters more? Democracy? It's a point where you have to stand up for the principles of a democracy. Play this clip from 117.
We're meeting today in Charlottetown, the birthplace of Confederation, 1864. Leaders from across British North America gathered a few blocks away from here. At that time, internal trade barriers were holding back growth. Major infrastructure projects required cooperation across jurisdictions, and there was a threat of American invasion. Plus ça change. Right. At that point, when the fathers of Confederation, and unfortunately it was only fathers at that time, and there were many others excluded, what they suspected then is what we know in our bones today, that our unity is our greatest strength, and that our destiny is in our hands. As everyone knows, on Monday, the U.S. administration announced its intention to impose the latest in a series of unilateral, unwarranted trade actions. And we're clear. Canadian governments around this table will do whatever.
I mean, it's the same.
We inflicted more than I intended on you there, ladies and gentlemen. But the bit that I thought
are really
was
upset. They can't even listen anymore. They're just like, I can't listen.
No, like we need to ration our Carney. But the reason that I wanted that to be played, the reason I wanted that in there, is because of what you said right at the beginning there, where he's talking about, where he was remembering Confederation, and he listed all the things that were going on, including the threat of an American invasion. And then he said, plus ça change. That little cliche, that French cliche that we've talked about before, if you remember. Plus ça change, that's a shortened version of a French cliche that translates to, the more things change, the more they stay the same. So in other words, he's saying, just like now, the Americans are threatening to invade us. So he's trying to be a smart ass, and he's trying to take digs at the Americans, and he's trying to say things that he thinks. This is something that I profoundly dislike about Mark Carney, I have to say. He operates as though the Americans are stupid, that the Americans are completely thick-skulled morons, and they won't get this. It's like, this is too tricksy for the Yankees. There's no way they're going to understand that I'm accusing them of threatening to invade Canada. As he smirks, that's a perfect still, as he smirks there. No, the Americans are not stupid. Please get that into your head, Marcus. And again, it takes me back to when he was talking about comparative advantage, and he's like laughing with the Economist's economics editor, I think, like chuckling about the idea that Donald Trump understands what comparative advantage is. Don't do that. It's so stupid. It's such a foolish policy. Don't treat the Americans like they're morons. They understand that you just had a laugh there, using a French cliche, at the Americans' expense. They know that. I really don't think that was wise.
And here's Dougie. Like Doug Ford, I don't know he might be Captain Anti-Canada. I mean, he's definitely for, he's not going to suffer either. All the stuff that he's going to propose and do, the stuff he did with the ad, Canadians at home without a job right now, suffering food insecurity. Doug's not suffering. You just look at him. He's not suffering, right? He's riding around in a chauffeur-driven limousine, eating high on the hog, your money. And you suffer for his actions. And here he is, Ford calling on again to block oil and potash. Alberta has the hammer, and Saskatchewan to a minor degree.
Ontario's potash, Ontario's oil.
You know what I mean? The same people, when Alberta asked for help, Alberta was treated like the like the ugly stepsister. Well, Cinderella is in all her regale right now, and she looks pretty damn shiny, and yet still, gets treated with disrespect. David Eby basically called her a treasonist. David Eby basically called Carrie Lynn Finley a treasonist for going to talk to Danielle Smith. Her first action was to go to talk to Danielle Smith. You got to be kidding me. Like, we're going to show you some of that evidence. The politics of these people, they should not be governing. They should not have the people's welfare in their hands if they cannot separate themselves from their own egos and arrogance and their need to drive their own agenda that is outside of what the public's benefit is. It's time for change. And I was thinking to myself, this morning, I was like, you know what? Maybe you need to run. Like, maybe you actually need to run because it's so bad. It's so bad. Maybe we'll inspire some other people to run, because we can't have this type of people running this country. This is like, and the media. I mean, our job is to take down this media. You can help by sharing this far and wide. Literally share this far and wide. Put it under every CBC story. Just make them come after us. I don't care. We need a confrontation with the CBC. Because the truth must get out there. Ian's like, do we? Do we?
I'm just looking at the comments. The crowd has gone wild because Jasmine Lane has appeared. Hello, Jasmine.
Hi, Jasmine. People love Jasmine. Who doesn't?
They really do.
Who doesn't? The media is the problem in Canada. Jasmine knows this as well. The media is the problem. They're the sickness. They're the ones in the way of the truth. Imagine if people got the truth every day. Imagine if they got Jim and Ian every day. Imagine if that was what Canada got for news. These people couldn't hide. They couldn't hide their lies, their misinformation. Again, 10 million Canadians. Should be the top story on every outlet in Canada. 10 million Canadians suffering from food insecurity. And that's from the Department of Agriculture. We didn't make that up. It's not Ian and Jim that made that up. That's from the Department of Agriculture. And it said it's critical. That was in the memo. It's critical. 10 million Canadians, 25% of the population in Canada. And companies like Ian just said recently, Rogers saying we need to go back to wide open immigration because Rogers' profits depend on it. Yeah. Way to go, Rogers. I'm going to play this clip here from, I don't even know if I want to play this clip, but I'm just going to play a small clip here from Lisa Raitt, has at least reasonable on CBC.
Okay, so Lisa, that's Premier Frechette there. Danielle Smith earlier said we don't want our energy used as leverage. Scott Moe, we got an interview coming up with him. He says the same thing about energy and potash. So if the key leverage points that have been identified aren't available to the Prime Minister without enormous domestic blowback, how do you do it?
You go back to the table like they were prior to October of last year and exchanging proposals on what we want to accomplish in a comprehensive trade deal. It's not a case where we're threatening one another consistently. First principles, David, the United States has made it clear to the world that they are renegotiating every trade deal that they're part of, and that part of their toolkit is to have a tariff. The question is, how much of a tariff does Canada want to pay? We're not going to be able to get what we had expected in terms of CUSMA to have free trade on absolutely everything. What's the number going to be? That is the negotiation that we should be having at this point in time. And I think that's the negotiation that Janice Charette and that Dominic LeBlanc are seized with, quite frankly. Let's not let these 29 days go to waste because we're trying to figure out whether or not our premiers are going to have a bun fight at the end. I don't like this line of discussion whatsoever. Let's focus. And those small and medium companies, they're not going to hang around waiting to figure out whether or not we can hold on for another 3 years of Donald Trump. They're going to make their decisions today financially as to whether or not they're going to close up shop or move to the United States. I mean, these are serious matters, and we got 29 days to fix this. And I say we make a good shot at it and forget about the rest. Forget the noise. Stop making political points on this stuff. Sage advice. But the arrogance just gets in the way, the absolute arrogance. And CBC, too, they on another clip, they're just like, oh, well, Danielle Smith won't play ball. Like, what do we do? Like, how do we force Danielle Smith to play? When you look at all your coverage of Danielle Smith,
If I was Daniel Smith, I would say, don't even talk to me.
But it also goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Why do you expect them to go along with this and do something that might hurt their poll numbers? You know, that's not that's just not in the nature of political people, is it? To sacrifice immense amounts of popularity, which that might not necessarily occur if they did a deal with the Americans. You know, they might be rewarded for it, but something that they know for sure is that a sort of brawl with the Trump administration is electoral gold dust. It's so valuable. So why would they? Why would they want to get rid of it? You know, and as we explained as well, this hardly affects them, does it? The bill for them and their reputation, the bill won't be due for God knows how long, if it ever is due.
Inside the castle walls, and I apologize for the next two clips. Right now, I'm going to apologize up front. Somebody said Melanie Jolie was in the comments just recently. So, and in honor of that, we're going to play a clip from her.
How can Canadians and Quebecers, for example, trust your government that you won't make further concessions?
Prime Minister is in charge of negotiating. He is hearing the different points of views of his ministers, of also different business leaders across the country.
How can Canadians and Quebec...
That's good. That's just repeating. She's just saying he's in charge.
She said that. She said that. I watched this press conference, and she said that to basically every question that she was asked. She said, you know, I've got my own views, but it's the Prime Minister you need to ask, which suggests
she's been
that she has a different opinion. Yeah, exactly. And she's also been silenced. Totally.
By the new Democratic operative that's in there. They're just like, shh, enough out of you.
I would say, though, with Melanie Jolie, she's been in frontline politics now for ages, many, many years. And she's like Benjamin Button. I've said this before.
Yeah, she looks younger.
She's reversing she's aging in reverse. She looks younger now than she did when she started the job. And yet it's usually the opposite in politics. Have you noticed that? In politics, people usually go in with like a wonderful head of hair and like, you know, black hair or something, and then when they leave they're like haggard and it's fallen out and it's grey, and they're just like it's like killed them. The job kills you. But Melanie, I don't think she's ever looked more youthful.
And then this second punishment is just I just figured, hey, if you're going to have a little bit of Melanie Jolie, we got to bookend it with Anita Anand. And again, another one that won't reveal the documents, that bridge to PEI, or their husband runs. They won't release those documents either as to what is the benefits for that company that runs that bridge.
ASEAN is a dynamic, growing, and important market, and we see, therefore, powerful opportunities to deepen our mutually beneficial collaboration and to leverage our respective strengths. So we look forward to working with you as we deepen economic cooperation.
Because she doesn't say anything. Just, you know, I just thought you needed about 10 seconds of that.
I wonder if anybody asked her if Canada plus ASEAN countries represents more than 25% of world GDP or whatever Carney said. But I guess not. He doesn't get that doesn't get picked up, does it? And I also have to respond.
And this is the one that is like a punch in the face too.
I've got to do it. Sorry, I've got to do it. I've got to respond. Somebody said that I have a crush on Melanie Jolie. Look at our back catalogue. Look at our oeuvre. I definitely don't. The point I was making was, you know, her physical appearance is suggestive of not having that much responsibility. If you look at other people involved in politics who, it's almost like they're going inside of a nuclear reactor core or something. It's like a exposure to radiation or something. They go into politics and then like 5 years later they come out and they just look like they've aged 30 years. Whereas Mel is happy as Larry. She's, if anything, it's so stress-free. It's having like the opposite effect.
Tim Hodgson, the Minister of Energy here. I just had to play it because like Here's Alberta with the hammer right now with oil. Everybody wants the oil. And Tim is promoting what? Let's go. Take it away, Tim.
L'énergie propre du Québec est une force pour le Canada.
And by working together, we can turn this energy into lasting prosperity.
Maintenant et pour le futur.
There you go. That's good. So, Alberta has the economic strength. Quebec has the political strength, because there he is pitching windmills in Quebec.
Yeah, he's having a good time. He's like on tour all the time, isn't he?
One second. Doug, why don't you tell America that you can't have any of that energy from those windmills that Quebec there has there? Cut off the windmill power. That'll threaten them.
Global Traveller in the house, he's just made the same comment, or a variation of the comment that we made yesterday, that we discussed. Like, you cut off oil or potash thinking that it's leverage, but have they thought about what happens next? Yeah, my analogy was Admiral Yamamoto. I took it to that level, where it's like, you can have a go at the Pacific Fleet in Pearl Harbor, and in the event, it was an extremely successful operation. But the problem with Admiral Yamamoto et al. Is that they didn't think about what happened next. Or if they did, they got it completely wrong. It's easy, isn't it? What's that Mike Tyson quote? Like, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face.
Oh, here's an old English one for you.
It's a complete failure to think about what the response would be.
Here's an English quote for you that is even better. Strike a king, strike him dead.
Yeah.
Strike a lion, strike it dead. Because you don't want to know what comes from that. So here's some response here. Trump advisor lashes out at Canada's supply management fortress, says it's dishonest, negotiators stab you in the back. Now, over and over, American friends, this is economist Peter Navarro, who advises Trump on trade matters. He's blasted Canada for overseeing what he calls a protectionist system that singles out American farmers, distillers, automakers, and workers. Writing in the National Post newspaper, Navarro complained about Canada's supply management fortress, provincial boycotts on U.S. booze, industrial discrimination against American autos. He adds, free trade cannot mean Canada's free to sell to America while America's forbidden to compete. Under President Trump, the era of one-way concessions is over. Speaking to the broadcaster News Nation, he also said Canadian officials are some of the most dishonest people I've ever met. They stab you in the back.
Pretty sharp words. But
Well,
it's clearly, this is the guy, this guy's like, on that News Nation interview, he sort of takes ownership of it, and he says, they're talking about the hockey sticks, and he says, yeah, that's why I put hockey sticks on it. So he's talking about it as if it's his baby, that these tariffs are like his project, his work. So very, very interesting bit of insight into what this man thinks, like the author of these tariffs. And he is like, read the article, watch that interview. He is harboring like massive amounts of resentment towards Canada. And that is very, very bad, isn't it? That this guy who's basically in charge of Canada trade policy, by the looks of things, from the US perspective, that he's just absolutely furious. Like he's really angry. You read the article, it comes across in the words. He is like extremely upset, and that I don't think that bodes well for us, really.
Here's Jameson Greer testifying.
After this hearing, I'm actually flying down to Mexico City to meet with President Sheinbaum, to meet with Secretary Ebrard. The team is down there negotiating. So we're moving with all due speed on all of this. There are some issues in USMCA which take a longer time to address, issues that are quite important. Some of these are related to rules of origin. We want rules of origin and USMCA to be very strong to incentivize production in North America as opposed to other regions that have a lot of excess capacity or non-market practices. But it does take time to develop these. Similarly, I've heard from folks also in Congress about the need to strengthen labor and environment enforcement vis-a-vis Mexico. This can take time as well. That being said, I'm hopeful that before the end of the year, we can have at least options for President Trump and the leaders of Canada and or Mexico to consider potential interim arrangements or things that Canada can do on the one hand and Mexico can do on the other hand to strengthen enforcement, to improve their commitments toward us, and to make sure that we're managing all of the trade issues. So I would love to have between now and the end of the year at least some arrangements, one with Canada, one with Mexico, and then some of these issues that are really important, like rules of origin. I know labor environment is important to a lot of folks here, that take a little more time to have further discussion of that, including with Congress in the following year.
And when Mexico gets a deal, I was going to say if Mexico gets a deal before Canada, it's really going to set people's hair on fire. But it's likely going to happen that Mexico's going to get their deal and Canada's going to still be at the table because of the arrogance. And the CBC said it themselves. The kryptonite for the Liberals is their arrogance. Their arrogance gets in the way. And you know who pays the price for it? You do. You, the Canadian public, pay the price. Like, again, the reporters, like, some of them need to come and watch this show. Because the real story in Canada right now is the economy sucks. Okay, we all got that. 10 million Canadians suffer food insecurity in a nation this rich. 10 million Canadians. And the Department of Agriculture said it's critical. And that number continues to get bigger. Record food bank lineups, and food banks don't have enough food. In a nation like this is not Sudan or Ethiopia, and yet we still dole out money. Anita Ann still traipses around the world doling out millions and millions of dollars to other nations. Like, we just gave, how many millions did we just give Brazil, who's probably in a better economic condition than Canada right now? I wonder if they have 10 million people with food insecurity in Brazil. When do we start asking for money? What are we going to do when the American Red Cross lands in Canada and starts doling out food? How are we going to hide that?
We'll just say that it's Trump propaganda.
Ridiculous. Ridiculous. Listen to this. This is Quebec Premier Christine Frochette. I'll go to the next one.
As you know, I will defend and protect Quebec's economy, Quebec's workers, Quebec businesses until the end. And the supply management is something that is non-negotiable for me.
Why would it be? Because over half of the dairy farmers are in the big province of Quebec with the political power. And we showed you that. Was it yesterday? That it's literally in law that the cabinet ministers and nobody can negotiate on supply management. What other industry is enshrined in law other than the CBC, right? Where they're trying to enshrine it and give it all this special powers. So they take certain industries and enshrine them in law, in protectionist law. Wild, absolutely wild. Canadians suffer. 10 million Canadians go hungry.
Look at the way that they talk about it as well, as if it's like, if we didn't have supply management, we would be doomed. Like, it's totally non-negotiable. It's like, I mean, they talk about it. They talk about it the same way that it's almost like if you went to India and you tried to get a trade deal with India, and you said, all right, but you've got to drop the Hinduism thing, you know, just Ganesh, just stop doing that, please, India. And then they would respond, as you would imagine, furiously and say, absolutely not. In Canada, it's, no, we've got to have this bizarre socialist system for distributing quotas for how much milk a special small group of people can produce every year. What? What the hell? Is that what's sacred to us? So in India, it's Hinduism. You know, just insert your country. In Spain, it's tapas. Whatever the hell you want to look at. Here we are in Canada, and it's supply management. Like, that's our sacred, that's our church, is this strange economic system that benefits a tiny minority. Okay, then. I guess no further questions, Your Honor. Let's move on.
Listen again here. Listen to this, or just 9 premiers to allow wineries, distilleries, breweries to sell directly to consumers across provinces. Like CBC writes the headlines, Mark Carney just bumps it straight out, because I mean it's just basically written by the PMO's office, and then just CBC cuts and pastes it, puts their logo on it, and Mark Carney just repeats it. But I thought there was 10 provinces, isn't there? Am I wrong? Did I get my math wrong? Did I miss one day at school or something that there's only 9 now? Why would there be one missing? Just curious. Any idea which one?
Definitely not Quebec. No way would it be Quebec.
Turns out it is.
What?
Again, Quebec has all the political power. You know, Team Canada minus Quebec. Team Canada minus Quebec. Supply management, basically Quebec. We had the food professor on saying most of that power, and even there's disagreements on how that power is distributed. It's mostly in Quebec, right? All the political power rests in Quebec. Where are they building the Alto pipeline, or pipeline, the pipeline of cash? Where is that getting built? Quebec? Quebec?
Also, this is such. I mean, it's good. To be fair, Mark Carney said something. You know, we did an excerpt where he said "plus ça change" in that little speech. He said something that I applauded heartily and aggressively, and I was very happy to hear him say it, where he mentioned this, and then he said, "But I don't know why we've ever had internal trade barriers anyway." And he looked full of contempt, and I was like, yes, more of that, more of talking about how immensely stupid these policies are and have been for so long, and include supply management. I dare you, Mark. I dare you. You're popular enough to fight. I dare you to do it.
He could have said to Wab Canoe when Wab spouted off there about he'd consider a pipeline, he could have said, sit down. It has nothing to do with you. You can think it doesn't have anything to do with you, Wab. You go and do your social media stuff somewhere else. Listen to this. This is the servile media. The Globe and Mail's this is from the food professor. Globe and Mail's agriculture reporter Kate Helmore covered supply management today. Imagine that, eh? But the choice of sources is baffling. She cited a professor from my own university, Dalhousie, who appears to have no research background in marketing boards or supply management, and whose scholarly record in this area is virtually non-existent. Didn't bother asking the food professor. Wonder why. Isn't that curious? Isn't that curious? I've studied supply management 25 years.
You know, as a journalist, you know, like they make it seem, I'm sure everybody knows this, but I'll reveal it anyway from the other side of the curtain. Journalists write a story and they make it seem like the academics or the experts that they've interviewed have just like they were just inevitable. Like it had to be them. They've just dropped out of the sky, and it's like, and they just happen to say what they say. It's not like that. You know, you look around for the academic you want to interview, obviously, because you know what they're going to say, and that's the point you're trying to push in your article. That's the angle.
This media cannot be defunded fast enough. This is narrative pushing. They don't want to interview the food professor because they'll tell you Canadians pay too much for dairy. You can go watch our interview with him. You can go watch it. Canadians pay too much. Well, they dump millions and millions of liters of milk in the drain while Canadians go without. Listen to that. Again, the benefit of the few, 9,000 dairy farmers. And some of them are fed up with it as well. As they are forced to dump milk, some of them have a conscience and they're just, this is wrong. Like we showed the video of that a long time ago, where the guy's like, I can't, in good conscience, I have to dump this milk down the drain while I know that Canadians go hungry. Of an essential, milk. I think Ian alluded to that. You know, like there's some nations where they have lots of cheap, plentiful milk, you know, that people grow like weeds.
That was, because I was reading something written by Václav Smil, Canadian professor, probably, talk about academics, probably the most esteemed academic in Canada right now. He was writing about that, and you know, Bill Gates is a big fan of his, so it's not like he's some sort of out there academic or something like that. He's been accused of being on, like being a globalist and all sorts of things, but it's not what he is. He's just a very sensible chap who writes the truth because he can't do anything else. But I mean, I would just say as well, it's beyond milk being poured down the drain, isn't it? This has cost us in so many ways. It's cost us with the Americans. The Americans just can't get over this. They're obsessed with this. Every little aspect of it, right now it's this thing where European cheeses can be purchased by retailers directly, whereas American cheeses can only be purchased by quota holders or producers or whatever. It's like down to the nitty gritty. It costs us so much with America because the Americans just hate this so much. But it's not just the Americans; it's the EU, it's the UK. It killed the deal with the UK. Don't forget that. That's quite a big deal. They're always talking about, the PMO sent out a readout of Carney's chat with Andy Burnham, and they're bragging about all the trade that's done between the UK and Canada. But it's like, yeah, remember what happened? Well, we tried to get even better trade terms with the British, but it was sunk because of supply management. It's just this it's like this horrible sort of leprosy that we carry around as we go and try and do business with the world. And we're just covered in the supply management leprosy. And all these countries are just like, cure that, like get that sorted out, and then we'll do something. Then we'll have a chat. But we're so devoted to our leprosy that we just won't get rid of it. So we're just walking around like lepers.
But the Canadians pay the price for it. And the food professor said they're the largest spending lobby group in Canada. They spend $9 per Canadian lobbying. And he said if he didn't have tenure, he couldn't do it either. He couldn't even speak out against them because they just destroy you. But
we're just mad, obviously. We're
a couple of mad cows.
We're inspired. We're inspired by the Bushido and the Japanese in the Second World War. That's how mad we are.
A couple of mad cows.
Yeah, maybe that's it.
And look at this one here. Food professor is highlighting so much like abuse, corruption, fraud. All you know in Blacklock. So this is Blacklock's broke this story, right? And here's Bob Fife who says, he's surprised that nobody else is talking about, Justine Hendricks, the Farm Credit Corporation CEO, who takes $500K and your money, $500K, and then spends $517,000 on expenses in a couple of years. And the food professor, shared some of the stuff, and he just said he got DMs from Sean Hannay and Evan Shout of the Real Agriculture podcast defending the Farm Credit Corporation CEO of her outlandish expensive and sense of entitlement. And his question is why? Perhaps they get funding from Farm Credit Corporation for their Real Agriculture podcast. Perhaps. Do they? That's the problem in Canada. Like I said, all the people that I used to write extensively on LinkedIn, and they were good posts. I get 500,000 views a month. And I would get attacked by some people. And I would just go look at their bios, and sure enough, they were living off the government taxpayer, or the government, and you, the taxpayer. If they're living off the government, they're living off of you. Because there is no government money. It's your money. They try to make it seem like it's their money. Here's Rachel Thomas, MP, says the CBC who sacrifices facts for biased reporting has been appointed as the Liberals fact checker. This story we covered yesterday. There's a really good clip Ian and I did from this yesterday. I mean, the irony writes itself, as she says. I mean, I said yesterday, it's bloody ridiculous. But hey, in Canada, it seems like it's all good. and then I had to put this clip in because this is Doug. This is how much Doug cares about you. Listen to Doug here.
Okay, OntarioPremier.Ford, we appreciate the time. And if that water turns you into a CBC reporter, come back. You can fill in when I'm off.
Okay. My tie's going red already.
There you go. Okay. Thank you.
Cochrane's on, he's He's having a good adventure lately, isn't he? We've seen him in different places.
Oh yeah, well, he's living high on the hog. He's got your tax dollars. He's now the misinformation officer, and he does the pen thing. I don't even have a pen today. I do have a pen. I don't know. Maybe we could work on it. Do you think how many billions of dollars could we get if we started flicking pens around? You know what I mean? How do you get on the gravy train?
That's the mystery. Got to prove your loyalty.
And I'm not going to play this clip, but there's Doug Ford at the podium saying he just canceled Elon Musk's Starlink contract, banned all U.S. companies from government contracts. Didn't he ban Starlink a long time ago? Is he just rehashing it? Yeah, just ban the most consequential company on the planet Earth. That'll be good for the Canadians. That'll be awesome. You can still order Starlink yourself. You don't need
So
Doug.
what did he think? What do you think that was going to do to Elon Musk? Do you think that was going to freak him out?
Wipe him out. No, wipe him out. What did he say?
The trillionaire.
What did he say about what he's going to do to the Americans? I can't remember the word he used. What was the word he used?
About the Disney
Dismantle
guy.
them.
Oh, that, right, yeah. Dismantle.
That's like a chihuahua there at a lion. Chihuahua. And here's the Liberals. Here's the record. What are we at? 14, 15 months now? What are we at?
More than that, isn't it? I think it's
what?
Like 20 months or something?
Yeah, but anyway, one of their big pillars was housing will double. That was one of the things they were going to do. Housing starts continue to go down, not up through 2027. The federal mortgage insurer CMHC said that yesterday. The forecast contradicted Carney's repeated claims that Cabinet was building more homes faster. Building homes faster than you can ever believe. Housing starts expected to decline as builders continue to respond to unsold inventories and high construction costs. You know, the big condo thing, the big condo scandal there, just not even making the news anymore as they quietly, probably Eby and Carney just quietly just like ease that condo burden off the developers. Historically, low levels of construction will be the most visible in Ontario and British Columbia, particularly in the condominium market. Housing starts in the prairies in Quebec also declined. Housing starts total 241,000 last year. CMHC has projected this year total to be around 238. Double? Is that double? Take 241, double that. What does it come out to? 241 times 2 is what? Is it more than 238? I don't have my. I mean, I'm a CPA, but I don't know. Like, I mean, Mark Carney can make an excuse. He wasn't sure how the bridge deal worked. I'm not sure if 241 times 2 is more than 238. Is it?
Just let Mark figure it out. He knows better.
And he said 500 minimum to restore affordability. So is that less too? Is that more than 238? Is that less? I don't know. Is 238 less than 500? Housing activity will remain weak.
Trying?
What's that?
There's a guy with a Harvard degree in charge of the country. He can figure this stuff out. Don't even worry yourself about it.
And that $4 billion that they set aside into this new corporation there, according to Jason Jacks, before he got ushered off into silence there, is they said they were going to build, like double the housing. And Jason Jacks said they'll likely build 28,000 homes with $4 billion. You figure that out. We've done that. Renee Merrifield and I have done the math on that. The math doesn't work out very good. Like, I want to get in on that building too. Like, I don't know how much per home. I'll build it by hand. I'll do it with a hammer. I used to work construction too. I know people are going to say, oh, you worked at that too? I worked construction. I did roofing, did insulating, did drywall, framing. And here's the bad part here. Most of Canadians' wealth is tied up in their homes, right? I mean, that's where most Canadian wealth is tied up in their homes, especially the boomers, tied up in, paid off homes. Canadians can't win as rising mortgage rates cancel out falling prices. So, yeah. So your home price is falling and people try to go buy a home. Home prices are falling, but mortgage rates are increasing. So that means you can buy less because the mortgage rates mean a lot less home, right? Because the interest. And then the stress test, you qualify for a lot less. Average 5-year fixed mortgages right now rose in June. That's not a good sign, to 4.57 from 4.49. Among the big banks with the widening spreads, again, the oligopoly protected. Just imagine if we had competition. You know, in the United States of America, they can get a 30-year mortgage that takes all the stress of renewals. In Canada, the best you can do, I think, is 5 years. So you got to stress every 5 years as to, you know, like you might get forced out of your home if interest rates go from, you know, like what they did in like, you know, like 2% to 10. That's it. Okay, game's over. In the United States, basically you buy the home and the mortgage is set for the term of the mortgage. Not available in Canada because we have just this oligopoly here that protects itself, because that's a risk for the American banks, right? Because mortgage rates go up and down, but it should smooth out, right? So they take on more risk. But in Canada, nah. Why would we make the banks take any risk? Look at their stock prices. They're killing it. And you know what the excuse of many of these financial people will say? Why don't you just own bank stocks? You know, because most people don't own stocks. So again, it protects the few at the expense of the many. And here's some more bad news for Canadians. Price of oil, and this is in for Brent Intermediate, $100. This is from the Financial Times. I think it's still around, the oil price for West Texas Intermediate is $84, I think, right at this moment. No, sorry, refresh. $92.61 for West Texas Intermediate. Brent at 101. Western Canadian Select. Western Canadian Select at 75. Great deal for Alberta. You know, Alberta's going to be filling the coffers. Can't wait for all the other guys to be saying, well, Alberta needs to spread that wealth around.
Well, you know, we talk about the UK, don't we?
What's that?
We talk about England quite a lot, Britain, and how our elite here in Canada seems to take their cues from over the water. Look at what the British levy, look at the tax levy, that they mean the same thing. Look at the levy that they put on oil company profits. Last time I checked, it was 75%, because they've propagandized so strongly against oil that, you know, people seem to think that that's acceptable. So maybe that's coming. A 75% windfall tax. What do you think of that?
Well, that might be coming from guys like Stephen Guilbeault. Thank you for the compliment, and thank you for the contribution to independent media. We do appreciate that. We do appreciate that. I mean, there's a lot of people that think Ian and I are going to be banging rocks one day in some social cohesion school in some Chinese city that I can't name, but Ian, at least I'll be able to rely on Ian to name the cities this time I mispronounce them. Shenzhen.
Shenzhen, yeah. Sorry, I've just Googled, just out of interest. I just had a look, and there's a group, 350.org, who just a few months ago said, we need a 75% windfall tax on the oil and gas sector in Canada.
There you go, Alberta.
So there you go. Tax big oil's wartime profits, they say.
There you go, Alberta. Another punch in the face. Another gut punch for you, coming your way. This is the sad reality.
Unless you behave yourself.
This is the sad reality. We got these people, these financial gurus that have different agendas. Because I don't know, I could do way better than Mark Carney's doing right now. Like half asleep and still doing this. I could do this in the morning and then do the rest of the stuff and still do a better job. At least I would know what the truth looked like. 2% of Canadians now over 60 have a positive view of communism. Under 30, if you're under 30, 26% of people think communism is the solution. You know why? Because they're disenfranchised. They're disenchanted. The system is failing them. It's absolutely failing them. Why is the system failing them? Because you have corporations that don't compete. They're in protected oligopolies, Rogers, in this protected bubble. And then they want more money, they greed, and they take advantage of the people. They give you lousy service. They've been called out for overcharging and bad billing, and that it's never enough for these people. You give them an oligopoly, first of all, you give them an oligopoly. There's Rogers, Bell, and TELUS. You give them an oligopoly because they say they need it, right, to survive. So you give them that. And then they say they need this and they need this. Now they need temporary foreign workers. Who's paying the price for all of this? You, the consumer, right? Bad service. Can't tell me it's good service. Bad service. Rising rates. Higher rates than most of the world. And then they also want temporary foreign workers, which then goes outside of the cell phone spectrum. It goes right into your daily life. It goes into your daily life, access to health care, rents in your community, high unemployment for youth. It's outside of their spectrum. They don't care of the damage they do to your community as long as they can drive corporate profits. Think about that. And you wonder why the youth is disenchanted. This is the bad leadership. They've taken it outside of like they're just bad service. And they've actually causing damage to the communities. Again, go to the reallybigshow.ca. Go to the bottom there. I'm mad as hell. I'm not going to take it anymore. And tell Rogers and Bella and TELUS, go sign up for Starlink, because these people do not care about you. Like, that is an indictment of Rogers there. They do not deserve your patronage or your support. And the same goes for Tim Hortons.
We've got a slide there, so you can visualize this polling, what they found. But that is quite remarkable, isn't it? 26% of Canadians under 30 view communism positively. We've had so many chats about this, haven't we? The way that communism seems to still slip under the radar, even though its corpse count is significantly higher than, for example, fascism, which we've all got built-in resistance to. It's like our immune systems know how to deal with fascism, but not communism. And it's quite peculiar. Something's going to have to be done about this at some point. It can't just be dodged forever.
It's
some
a two-tier system.
People in positions of power and authority, people like Mark Carney, are going to have to acknowledge this and say something and do something about this. Because communism
they fill their
is
pockets.
death. It is a death cult. You will die. If communism takes control of this country, there's a very, very good chance that you will die, or people that you love will die. It's as simple as that. And, they might die of starvation. They might get a pickaxe through the back of their heads. It is death. Communism is death. Who's going to stand up and say that? Like, other than obviously random people on YouTube like ourselves, who in positions of authority are going to say that? It needs to be said, doesn't it?
The thing is that the youth have been disenfranchised, disenchanted, and their dream is gone. And it is the failed leadership of this last 11 years in a nation so rich. And again, I'm going to go back to the 10 million people. This is an indictment of these people, and they get to stand at the podium in an indictment of our media, our sick, demented media that doesn't even tell Canadians the truth. They take money out of your wallet. They take money out of people that can't afford to give. They take money out of the people that are making even $20,000 a year. They take taxes from them. They take taxes from them, and then they feed you back lies and misinformation. They literally take money from you while they live high on the hog and spend money like crazy. They take from those that can't afford to give. They should feel ashamed. They should be absolutely ashamed of themselves. It's children are going without food while these David Cochrans and Rosemary Bartons and the rest and Doug Fords and that live off the taxpayer. Literally dine on the taxpayer's bones and carcasses.
Nonetheless, I think that is ultimately where the blame lies. But it is quite interesting and important, I think, that it's not the case that more than a quarter of young Canadians have a positive view of fascism. It's communism. Why is that? they're equally discredited ideologies. Why is it just communism? That there's something must be done about that. I think it's become so serious now that middle of the road people, or people who are said to be middle of the road, like Mark Carney, need to do something about this.
Nick just asking what's the price of oil. We just covered that, but just really quickly, over $100 for Brent, 92, I think, 92 for West Texas Intermediate, and about 75 for Western Canadian Select. Look at this, look at this, the Financial Post. Breaking news, Canadian retail sales rise for 5th month in a row. You can put up that next slide there. Canadian retail sales rise for 5th month in a row. Scratch beneath the surface, just a little scratch. Just take your nail out and just rarely, just scratch. Oh yeah, right? Sales at gas stations and fuel vendors started the largest increase in May. Wonder why? Why is that?
Must be all those
but in volume, hey,
drinks
listen,
that
look
they
at this.
sell.
Like, hey, sales in gas stations up 3.1%, but volume in gas stations actually down. Let's say financial. Put your financial hat on. Why is that? How could the total value go up when the actual volume went down? Does that make sense? Oh, right. The price of fuel skyrocketing, which leads to inflation. I can tell you right now, we're going to guess, we'll go out on a limb if you want to go to Polymarkets, that the inflation numbers for July are not going to be pretty. We got a couple more, and we're going to try and speed it up here. And this is from Holly Donald Blacklocks. A federal panel assigned to combat anti-Semitism yesterday had no comment on the figures showing Jews remain the leading target for hate crimes nationwide. One advocacy group calculated Jews are now 22 times more likely than Gentiles to be a crime victim in Canada.
Why did they use that word? Such a stupid thing to do. That was, I mean, I often praise Blacklocks, but that was a foolish thing to do. Don't know what they were thinking with that.
And then another one here. Department of Immigration has rejected more Gaza foreign study permits than is accepted. That's from records. No reason was given, though a briefing note said applicants were subject to security screening with photos and fingerprints. By using enhanced biographic information from applicant, Canada is able to conduct preliminary security screening while people are still in Gaza. I mean, we also know, we just did it the other day, where basically they're not even doing that. They're letting them in, and then they're going to do the screening after the fact. Right? That'll be good, right? Because then they'll just disappear, and then they've been asked how many thousands of people are missing in Canada that have been ordered or deported, and they're just like, I don't know where they are. Even the ones that actually have criminal records that are actually in jail, the CBSA still doesn't deport them. They know where they are.
I mean, quite interesting that those articles follow one another, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I always thought, right from the very beginning, I thought it was one of the maddest things you could possibly do. To invite thousands of people from a small territory that has been dominated, enslaved by the most extreme Jew-hating psychopaths on Earth, basically, and has been enslaved by them for about 20 years. And the Canadian government, the Liberal Party, thought it was a good idea to invite people from that society to this country. I mean, inevitably, there will be many fine people on both sides, obviously. Nonetheless, it's still, you know, you got to have quite a tolerance for risk, haven't you, if you commit to a policy like that? Is that not obvious? And yet they did commit wholeheartedly.
Sorry, I just got Nick, if you can play this here. This little clip here. This one there. Not that one, sorry, I just put the clip in there. And while you're trying to do that, we got another teacher one. BC registered teacher scrutinized over 15-second hug with student. We just did that yesterday. Another teacher. There's another one. Security footage from a school. 15-second hug between a teacher and one of her students.
I don't have to tell you things are bad.
I'll play the clip. Go ahead.
Is that the teacher?
No. We're going to play this clip.
Listen, I won't say anything.
At a later point. But you get the point. That's from Network. I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. And go to the reallybigshow.ca. Scroll down to the bottom, find your MP's address. Go to the thing for the MLAs and send them an email and says, I'm mad as hell. I'm not going to take it anymore. The Laurentian elite or the elite, the political class, doing extremely well, the protected oligopolies, while Canadians go without, and our youth disenfranchised and disenchanted, now seeing communism as a viable alternative to this economic mess here in Canada. No crime, there's no punishment for crime. Look at this, house arrest for a BC man who sexually, this is from Prince George again, sexually assaulted his 13-year-old sister. He gets house arrest. Sexually assaulted his 13-year-old sister, sentenced to 18 months of house confinement. And I don't want, you can go to Kelowna now and read it. I don't want to give you the whole thing about how he pulled down her pants and all this stuff. And
the saddest part of this story is that it says that it says here, a victim impact statement read in court said the girl slept in 4 layers of clothing and kept her door locked for a year after the incident. I mean, how bleak is that? That's presumably going to be a habit that she carries around with her for the rest of her life.
where's the justice for the victims these days? We just did one. There was one, the guy from India, a temporary foreign worker, working as a security guard, and sexually assaulted a woman. And the judge didn't even put him on the sexual registry list because it would hurt his immigration chances. From that same reporter. And here's how the NDP, this is the stuff they do. This is not tolerable. BC Conservatives are just putting their ideological loyalty to Donald Trump over their country. And this is from Ravi Kahlon and David Eby and that. Finlay sells out BC to Trump. They're basically calling her a treasonist, right? I mean, they just use this language. They use this language. This should not be acceptable. To get away with it. Media doesn't call them out. Well, here, we're calling them out. This is ridiculous. This is absolutely, it should be embarrassing to do stuff like this. And they'll tell you if they get called out, and well, it's just political rhetoric. It doesn't mean anything. Yeah, it does mean things. You're attaching hatred that that has been stirred up in the media, and you're attaching all that hatred onto a party.
And this is about the booze. That's the point being argued here. She says, and the BC Conservatives say, it's pretty stupid that we're boycotting American booze. Like, it's not getting us anything. Let's consider a different strategy. And this is the response. You sell out? What are you, MAGA?
This day in history. That's our basically load. This day in history, 1952, Egyptian Revolution. And that ended the monarchy and ushered into a modern Egyptian republic. I mean, Egypt not doing that great. They've had like bread crises and not great.
Yeah, I mean, in brackets it says Egyptian Revolution, brackets, coup, which is what it really was.
No.
No, it was a complete disaster, and they had their heads filled with really daft ideas like pan-Arabism, which didn't work out. But they did achieve something, which is bringing a formal conclusion to the British Empire by seizing the Suez Canal. And the British said, all right, we'll have that back. We'll send the boys in. And then the Americans, Dwight D. Eisenhower, said, if you don't get out of there, if you don't get out of Egypt forthwith, we're going to crash the pound and destroy your economy. And that was the end of the British Empire.
You know, you bring that up, and the Americans have the ability to crash currencies.
Oh yeah.
And so Canada, you know, like
that's why the British relented, because they knew the
with
British
all this hauteur,
knew
I mean,
it was real.
And the Canadian dollar is extremely weak and is extremely vulnerable. So they should watch what they're doing, because the pain that can be inflicted on this economy with a crashed dollar will be immense. And the people that will pay the price for it is the population at large, not the Laurentian elite, because they've already moved their stuff into American currencies and American investments. Mark Carney, over 90% of his investments are in the United States. Even Brookfield is working mainly in the United States. They just did 2 big deals in the United States. Bought a, with CPP, with Canadian tax dollars, they went and bought a warehouse facility with Westinghouse. So if our currency is attacked, and they have attacked currencies before, they've done some stuff even in I mean, a lot of the pressure on Iran was the currency. They crashed that currency. They literally crashed that currency. Biden tried to crash the ruble. Like, I mean, they literally tried to crash the ruble. But for years prior to that, the Putin had been accumulating gold. They used gold to suck up all the American dollars in their system. So they had gold, and then plus they used oil, and they forced people to pay for the oil with rubles. So they had to buy rubles. Canada doesn't has how much gold does Canada have, Julie? In reserve?
Studies show that the industrial carbon price adds zero.
Canada has 0 gold reserves. So how do you defend the Canadian currency? So oil, would they have even have the knackers to make people pay for oil in Canadian currency?
Also remember, since you're on the subject of America destroying currencies, remember what happened to the British, most strongly associated with George Soros, who completely screwed the pound because of something quite foolish that the British had done, admittedly. But he made billions off the pound. And who was his most trusted lieutenant when he pulled that off? A chap called Scott Bessent, who is now in charge of the money in America. So, yeah, I mean, they know how to kill the currency, or they know how to freak you out enough about your currency that
Scott Bessent may
relent.
well be one of the sharpest guys in that administration. Like, I'd be careful of that guy. Like I said, I wouldn't want to go into a room and trying to talk tough to Scott Bessent, or Rubio for that matter. Somebody asked, how much gold does Ukraine have? 27 tons, according to our friend there at the World Knowledge Bank. Canada, 0. They also have $25 billion of Canadian taxpayer money, and they have all that gold. Why didn't we say, hey, we'll give you a loan, just give us your gold to hold as collateral? Because if you're a financial guru, wouldn't you do that? Like, look at what Trump's doing right now. They're not giving him any money. He's saying, if you want to buy weapons, I will sell them to the Europeans who pay for them, and they can give it to you. Just like Canada, on the other hand, is just like, oh, you need another bag of money, Christia? No problem. All good. Brookfield's working there in contracts, right? So Brookfield's getting some contracts in Ukraine. Everybody wins except you. 1967, Detroit riots begin, one of the deadliest urban uprisings in U.S. history, lasting several days, highlighting the deep racial and economic tensions. Yeah, economic tensions cause riots. You got 26% of the population.
What did riots cause? What did these riots cause? The beginning of the end of Detroit. Pretty horrible, vicious circle.
Well, let's end with some good news, because you know what today is? One of my favorites. National Vanilla Ice Cream Day. I like a good ice cream cone. Ice cream,
Vanilla
ice
has
cream,
been vanilla must be the most defamed flavor
I like vanilla
in the history of the world. But it's the fact that it's become a byword for like boring. Vanilla is as good as it gets. That's not fair on vanilla.
We make vanilla at home with a little ice machine. You can, like, ice cream maker. I think it was like when we bought it a long time ago, like $25. I don't think it's $25 anymore. But we bought a little ice cream machine, and you pour in just, I think it's 3, 2, 1, like 2 cups of whipped cream, 1 of milk, and a half a cup of sugar, and in like and put a real vanilla bean in there, like a real vanilla bean you can buy them at Costco. And in a half an hour, you got ice cream that is like unbelievable, like unbelievable. And it's, like it makes a serving for our family, like, like there was, 4 or 5 of us eating, there's really nothing left, right? Throw some fresh strawberries that come out of the garden or the raspberries, some blueberries, boom. Cheap too. Like I said, go on Marketplace, find yourself a cheap, like a lot of people get rid of this stuff, they buy it and it sits in the cupboard, a cheap ice cream maker. You're not going to get better ice cream than what you can make at home. And then you can get fancy and you can mix it with different things. You can pour some Kahlua in there if you want. Whatever you want. Coffee. Whatever you want. That's our show, though. That's it. That's all we got.
Well, you don't want to tell people that it's National Gorgeous Grandma Day?
Oh, like how? Look at that. It's National Gorgeous Grandma. My wife's a grandma. There you go. She's actually announcing today, too. National Freedom Day for her. I'm just kidding. She's going to run for city council here in Kelowna. She just can't take it anymore. You can't sit back and watch it. Like at some point, I believe I'm going to have to do something as well. I mean, you just can't watch this happen. But I think Ian and I can do a better job right now bringing attention to what's going on here in Canada. I think that's our biggest thing, is try to bring attention to the matter that's at hand. We're going to go to Washington. We're trying to make plans for that already, because we're going to prove that we can get into the White House briefing room before we can get into the parliamentary gallery. We've sent emails to the State Department a few times and got responses back. I got a response back from the congressman. And we know that the response that we get from the Liberal MPs is 0. And Chrystia Freeland, friend of the show. Friend of the show. Come on, Chrystia. We'll be nice. You can even flog your book on here.
We'd love that.
Okay.
Send us a copy. I'll even read it.
You're going to read it?
I'll read it.
I'm going to let you read it.
I'll read it.
I'll let you read it.
Yeah.
We should get Catherine Swift on again, too. She's great. There's a few people that we need to get on again. And I don't think I'd want the Prime Minister's job. The job I would want so I could make the most impact, I think, would be the Finance Minister. I would tighten that purse so tight that they would be wondering how they could get a nickel out of it. And Julia Hendrickson there, no money for you. No money for you. Wage cuts across the board. Anyway, till tomorrow. Peace, may God be with you. And live long and prosper. And please, please share this, subscribe, and go to the Really Big Show. Send the letter to the MPs. I'm mad as hell. I'm not going to take it anymore. You have to do that. Come back and report tomorrow how many you sent out. Thank you. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. PST. Cheers.